Hello, welcome to another episode of Amuse.
Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, fam.
Kia ora everyone and welcome to episode 20 of Amuse, and I can't believe it's been 20 episodes now because I started this as just an idea, and I asked Matt from Domes, I was like, hey, would you like to come on my show and talk to my kids about music and I'll show it to the class, and then eventually that became an actual podcast idea, and then my maths teacher friend gave me the idea Amuse, and then my friend gave me the idea of the transforming lives through music. So everything's kind of like teamwork makes the dream work thing. And teachers are like that too. And today I have, on episode 20, I have Nathan, who is an English teacher from Albany Senior College. He is in a band called Gravity Road, and they're coming up to their 5-year anniversary of playing. I know that Nathan has a history of music, so he's going to talk to us about it. And I guess tonight's going to be another cool, interesting episode because it's another time we get a teacher on that isn't in the field of music per se, but is a musician. So, welcome to the show, Nathan. How you doing?
Really well. Yeah, it's been a busy day, but productive. So I'm quite happy to be here and to talk about music, man. It's like a big part of my life. So yeah, thanks for having me on board.
Oh, welcome. And thanks for inviting us to play a show with you soon. I think.
Oh, dude. Really looking forward to that gig.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh man, we haven't played in so long since last year's incident, and so we're like itching, and we want to play all these new songs that we've been writing, and it's like we. But yeah, anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Really, here it's to talk about you and for you to give some advice to those listening, mainly students and maybe those that are interested in wanting to get into music, to kind of talk about how you got into it, so they can kind of, piece together maybe, these things are happening in my life too. I wonder what happens if I go down that track. And so why don't we start, which was how we normally do, Nathan, by talking about, how you got involved in music and so forth.
Well, I've grown up around music. I mean, my parents weren't musicians necessarily, but there was always there were always records playing, at home. Mum and Dad were great fans of the Beatles and like Simon and Garfunkel. So music was always generally on when I was at home and around. But there comes a time when in your musical journey you kind of depart from what your parents are listening to, and so that really started to happen for me in the 90s. I was a teenager in the 90s, and so when I first heard Soundgarden, I was like, oh my God. Like this is this for me? Can I listen to this? It was this kind of lightning bolt revelation moment. That early 90s Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Nirvana.
Which song from actually? And obviously there's a delay when I ask a question, so it sounds like I'm cutting you off. So please forgive me, good sir. Soundgarden. I just want to talk about this for a moment because the other bands you mentioned are all very relevant. What song do you reckon it was that got you into Soundgarden? Like that captured you?
It was Outshined. I think that was one of the first ones I heard. That one, and there was Black Hole Sun, of course. That was the big hit.
That's the one that got me into it.
Yeah. But Outshined, it had that huge grunge, that huge heavy sound that I just came to love, and I love that about Alice in Chains as well. That big, slow, heavy drive. And then of course I got really into Stone Temple Pilots as well.
Yeah, man.
So it was really that early 90s sound that got me into playing the guitar. I heard Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. I heard Days of the New, and I was like, wow, man.
Yeah, Days of the New. That's a band I haven't heard in ages. I'll tell you something funny about that in a bit once you're finished.
And then also it was, I think the real change, the real switch, the real catalyst for me was hearing Pink Floyd for the first time as well. My cousin introduced me to Pink Floyd. He was like, dude, listen to Pulse, because that had just kind of come out in the early 90s, and then a few years back also there was Delicate Sound of Thunder as well. And so I kind of, the latter end of the Pink Floyd era was like, I just want to sound like David Gilmour. I want to do that thing that he does. And it was that really switched me into wanting to play the guitar, especially.
And that's interesting. I'll talk about the Days of the New in a moment, but see, Delicate Sound of Thunder was when after Roger Waters had left, which is one of the founding members, and his sound was very particular. And I could do a whole lecture on Pink Floyd. I don't know everything, but I grew up listening to them. and my dad, you know, he had everything. I kind of didn't really know much before, and I still haven't really had. I don't really get into much of the stuff before Dark Side of the Moon, but Dark Side of the Moon is kind of where for me it was they really fine tuned their sound, but they didn't lock themselves into it. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, well, like each album has its own personality. It's like each album is like a different child or a person, and they're exploring different ideas through the albums. And I think I kind of went backwards with Pink Floyd. I started with Delicate Sound and Pulse and Division Bell, and then sort of discovered The Wall, and then I discovered Animals.
Animals
what a
is
great
my
record!
favorite.
Animals
is
yes,
my favorite.
Yes, oh, dude, easy. I've got that on vinyl, and it sounds it fills the room beautifully.
But did you find it like me? Like I found it really hard to enjoy the first like few times I listened to it because Dogs is a huge song. You have to commit to listening to the whole 17 minutes. Did you not find that? I don't like it.
I've always loved the long form songs. You know, so yeah. So the idea that you can play like you can play say 10 tracks and they all form one long piece of music. You know that really appeals to me, and Pink Floyd did that so well with Dark Side, but then into Animals as well, and then so like other bands, or more recent bands like Porcupine Tree, they do a similar thing. You know, they've got that song Anesthetized on Fear of a Blank Planet that's like 17 minutes long or something. And it's
really, I've only heard
magnificent.
I've seen the one with the video with all the kids. It's so relevant. I actually might show my class tomorrow now.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Check out Fear of a Blank Planet. That's got like a 17-minute epic that just goes through all these different landscapes. And
yeah, I didn't know that.
One song, the second to last song is called Way Out of Here, and that song just blows my mind whenever I hear it. Yeah.
So here's something interesting about Days of the New, which most people don't know. I can't remember the lady's the singer's last name, but she is the lead singer.
Travis Meeks?
No, she's the lead singer of Pussycat Dolls, Nicole something. She was one of the backup singers for Days of the New. Went
really?
With them, yep. So
wow,
her strength was actually rock music.
Wow. Yeah, because there's a track on their second album which is just called Days of the New 2. No one sprained any brain cells with the naming of that one. And yeah, there's this lovely harmony in the background. So that's the singer from the Pussycat Dolls, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that she was touring with them and did the live stuff. So if she might as well be on the recording as well. I would imagine. But I just always thought she was more interested in like the pop sound. But no, she was heavily influenced by rock.
Yeah.
And so the music that you guys play in Gravity Road, whereabouts do you reckon the music is influenced from? Like, who writes a lot of the music in that band?
It's really collaborative. It might be that I'll bring a couple of guitar riffs that sort of fit together. Maybe it's sort of more hopeful on my part, but or the drummer Lou, he might have like a little rhythm that he starts with, or whatever. So we each bring something usually to the table, and we just sort of jam it and dream with it for a little bit, and then over time it either becomes a personality, or we put it on the shelf and maybe cannibalize pieces of it for another song. But yeah, it's really collaborative. Obviously I write all the guitar parts, but I also receive feedback and criticism from the other guys in the band. They're like, oh, that's not working so well, or that chord change or that key change isn't quite right.
How do you handle that when you get that sort of stuff? Because like if you're a teenager right now and you're listening to this and you're like, I've got this mean riff, and then you show it to somebody and you're real proud of it, and they say it doesn't work with the song.
Nah. Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
That's hard. Yep. No, that's a really hard thing to wear and own. I'd say from the beginning with Gravity Road, we always said that the biggest ego in the room is the song. And so we're all servants of the song. The song is bigger than any one of us, So if a part that I'm playing isn't working, then I can not take that personally, because I just know that I'm not doing the right job for the purposes of the greater personality, which is the song that we're working.
There was a great video I watched. Like I'm really big about producers and songwriters. So actually the previous artist I spoke to, Dills, he's a rapper and hip hop artist. He was kind of surprised that I had that much interest in producers, because he feels like that's something that people should do more of, is go and look at who produced the record, you know, because they are the ones during the recording process that will sometimes tell that artist it doesn't work, you need to change it. But there was a guy called Dr. Luke had talked about, you know, working with Max Martin, who, I don't know if you're familiar with Max Martin, but Max Martin is this is the funny thing about Max Martin. He's responsible for all the number one hits that you could think of. Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, Katy Perry. He still does it today. Taylor Swift, everybody. Like, if you go and research him, in fact, go and research him. I've known about him for years and years and years, but one of the things they talk about is it's like it doesn't matter whose idea it is. It's whatever's best that serves the song that wins, and people leave their egos at the door. So, you know, when they're writing, you know, like when they're working as a team to write the next big hit for whatever artist, they're not thinking about putting themselves first to be the one that wins. They're just like, they can easily, you know, submit to the idea that that idea is better than theirs, right? So you guys follow the same sort of idea?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a competition, you know. It's not an ego show. But I think along with that, though, there has to be a high degree of trust, you know, especially with a producer who's gonna you know, like observe the music externally and maybe meddle with it a little bit. You have to trust that person, you know, that the person isn't going to destroy the soul of what you've created. Yeah, you know, and it's like there's a trust and goodwill dynamic there as well. So yeah, I'd say that's super important for us. Like, we really trust each other, and I trust the comments and the judgments and the criticisms from my bandmates, and and that seems to work really well. You know, we have a lot of fun doing it that way, and it's not like in that way when we go to a band practice, it kind of takes the pressure off me. I'm not going there to perform like to put like great guitar player Nathan mask on. I'm just there as a person who's trying to muddle through music just like the rest of them.
That's why I like Tool so much, because the more you listen to them, you realize that they're extremely good musicians, right? Like Adam Jones will argue, the guitarist will argue that he's not. And you know, and true,
he's incredible.
Yeah, but at the same time, technically, he's not as good as, say, the likes of Steve Vai and things like that. He's not a shredder. However, what he does,
he's not a blistering shredder. But
if you take, for example, the song "Invincible," right, which is off Fear Inoculum, there's probably about 5 minutes of him doing this one repeated idea just over and over and over and over and over again, right? And so it's not you know, it's not when you learn to listen to a band like that you understand that sometimes you don't need to always be doing heaps to be part of a song. You're just doing what is serving that song.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And like, you know, you can machine gun the audience with notes, but it doesn't. If there's no story or emotion, then it's not going to mean a whole lot, you know. And it's just a trick, you know. It's like, look at the cool trick I can do with my fingers. But a guitarist like Adam Jones, you know, man, it's all about feel and rhythm, and well, you know, with the rest of the band it becomes polyrhythms, and then but it's so tight and clean, you know. And if there's anything that I think is successful with a recording artist, you don't have to play fast, but you have to play tight and you have to play clean, and if you can do that, then you're going to record well.
Yeah, I mean, they don't play to click. They don't record with the click.
I know. Jeez,
apparently.
It's impressive, man.
Yeah, and but that's because they understand it. So what would you describe the style of Gravity Road to be? Like, you know, and whereabouts, you mentioned all these bands that you were listening to, like Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, and all these things. You mentioned, obviously, Pink Floyd, but, you know, what is the sound, and how do you think Gravity Road brings these influences, maybe other ones as well, into the sound of your music? What happens there?
Well, I take a lot of influences from progressive rock. You know, I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Pink Floyd and Porcupine Tree. I love the Pineapple Thief. But then, you know, like that big heavy guitar sound from, say, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Stone Temple Pilots. And it's like that's where I feel like I draw my guitar sound from. But when it comes to songwriting, I like that expansive landscape approach, you know. So it's not like it's a formula of sort of like, say, verse chorus bridge chorus, but it's like a sequence of movements, you know. It's like you're exploring a set of different landscapes, and it might be that you return to particular motifs from time to time throughout the song, But on the whole, it's more like it's a non-linear sort of a journey. And so that's what I love about Pink Floyd and Porcupine Tree. And I'm really into this band. I don't know if you've heard of Sky Harbor. Oh, dude, check out their second album, Guiding Lights, Sky Harbor. It'll blow your mind, man. It'll melt your face. Those guys are incredible. I think. Have you heard of Tesseract?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. So one of the singers, Daniel Tompkins, he sang the second album for Sky Harbor. They have a different singer for the first and the third record, but the second one is Daniel Tompkins.
So who's the guy? Do you know? There's the because someone showed me Tesseract when I think it was at Alfriston College, and I was just like, holy moly! And they did the recording in the live studio, and they had the guy with the blonde hair. He had like a lip piercing and stuff like that, and he's not the singer anymore. Is that Daniel Tompkins?
No, I think he was. I think that guy was the singer before Daniel Tompkins.
Okay.
So Tesseract have had a bunch of different singers, three or four or something. Yeah.
They're ridiculous.
So yeah. Oh man, have you heard their recent record, Sonder?
I saw a playthrough of them playing it on like recorded at their houses because of COVID. Is that from the new? That from the new album?
I think that must be a newer one than one I'm thinking of.
Oh.
The one I'm thinking of, I think, is it might have been 2019. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a choice record, man. Yes. Anyway, yeah. So that's in terms of what Gravity Road does. That's kind of where I want to start with my role as the guitar player. You know, I try to create landscapes and movements through the song, and often it feels like I'm trying to mishmash bits together too much, and that's what the other guys are like, no, Nathan, that's not going to work. Those are two different songs, you know. But it's fun to try and kind of sort of draw snapshots of ideas together and create a montage out of a bunch of different pictures. And that kind of, it feels like that's what we're doing a lot of the time is kind of linking concepts into a story.
But you're doing something then that like a lot of listeners might not know how to appreciate. That's, you know, like you're stepping into territory where, like, say for example, a band like Tesseract, you know, it's not going to appeal to everybody. So so what are some things that you think students could do, or people that are listening to this podcast could do to help them kind of gauge exactly what makes you want to write that, and why, and what it is that makes you want to listen to it? How would they want to listen to it to kind of really understand what you're talking about?
Well, I think for us, and I'm speaking on behalf of the band members here too, because we've had this discussion. We write music primarily for ourselves first. We write music that touches our heart first. And it might be that one song is a long landscapey type of song, but it might be that it's just, you know, it could be like a 4.5 minute blistering riff monster as well. And, you know, we don't have the agenda to say that okay, we're only going to write long landscapes, you know. Every song is like its own child, and so they have different personalities and different lengths, and you know, so we have a couple of songs that are shorter and sort of 4 minute sort of riffy songs, and then longer songs but then when we play them live, we try and string them together as well, and have like we'll try and put sort of 5 songs together as one long piece of music. But yeah, like in terms of people who are, say, getting into songwriting for the first time, I think that, you know, often a song will be born from a hook. You know, it could be a riff that you like, a melody, or just like 2 chords that fit together strangely. I'm a big fan of Dan DeLear from Stone Temple Pilots. You know, the way he strings chords together is incredible. Like, you know, sometimes you kind of, like, it's like you can voice a chord by accident. But I've got there's one occasion where I picked up an old acoustic guitar, and for some reason, it was tuned, like the low E string was tuned down to a D, so it was drop D. But then the A string was also tuned down a full step to a G, and I kind of played a few weird voicings, and there was something cool about that, you know. And so sometimes you get an idea that sort of happens by accident. And so what I'd also suggest is that if you're rehearsing, especially with other bandmates, is that you record everything that you do, because it might be that something happens and it's like, ooh, that thing sounded cool. and it's like these little fortuitous, it's like you can follow those fortuitous events, and they might lead somewhere, and yeah, so in our rehearsals we have a little Zoom H6, and which record everything that we do. And then over the week between band practices, we'll sort of listen to it and go, oh yeah, I like that part, or that part didn't work so much, or there's a little chord change here or a rhythm here that was interesting.
So ultimately, you kind of answered my question about how would someone listen to the style of music you're writing by talking about the fact of how to write it, like write music, because then what you're doing is you're kind of like paying attention to the detail, and you're creating music, and you're thinking about what you're doing, you're recording it. And ultimately, like, if you can do that, then you'll be able to go back and listen to these long songs from bands like yourself, and you'll know what they're doing, because you know what they've done to create it. You're paying more attention, because if you think, like, I'm really funny, and what I mean by that is, like, I know people that will know the words to the song. I won't. And they'll know the melody off by heart, but they won't know who the artist is, and they won't know what the name of the song is. Whereas I will know the name of the song and who the artist is, who produced it and all that, but I won't necessarily always know the words off by heart. I'll typically know the melody. It's really interesting how people choose to listen to songs, like, active listening versus passive listening. And a lot of the time, passive listening is how you soak up the lyrics and then you just know what they are. Active listening is kind of like, you answered that question in a different way, but I think it's still got answered, because we are talking about songwriting ultimately for our students, and that's what I really want them to do. Yeah.
I like the way you put that. And like, in say my parents' generation, the lyrics was always the prominent thing. So for example, if I'm playing a piece of music that say we've recorded, or a band like, say, Alice in Chains, and Mum's like, I can't hear the lyrics, I don't know what he's saying. And for me, it's like, okay, well, you can always kind of listen to the song several times and try and work it out, but to me, vocals can be seen as one other instrument amongst many instruments. The vocal, it creates melody, but it's more than melody, because it's the vowel sounds, and it's the rhythm, and it's the cadences that make something unique. And the lyrics are part of that, but hey, like a song like The Great Gig in the Sky, right? There are no lyrics there, but it's beautiful. So you don't need lyrics, I think, to understand the emotional soul of a song.
Do you know the story about how that was recorded?
The Great Gig in the Sky?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me.
So I'm not going verbatim here. I'm just off the top of my head. I believe there was a lady who worked in the studio that was a backup singer or backing singer, and they brought her in and they asked her just to improvise over the top of it. And I think that was the second take. So she'd heard the song and she'd gone into the studio and just went with it. And just did, whatever they just said, whatever. I think that's how that worked. There's actually a documentary about the making of the Ducks. I mean, there's a couple of pivotal albums that kind of changed the recording processes forever. One being, the Beatles in general just doing what they did. They changed recording technology forever. And then one of the other ones was definitely Dark Side of the Moon, because if you look at how they had to sync up 2 8-tracks to get it to record all the stuff. No, that's good, dude. We're almost finished, but what I typically like to what I normally ask at the end of the show, you may have figured this out already, is I always ask, give me 3 words that you would want to tell students, that you think are important and vital to being a musician and just music in general. Any 3 words, and then if you want, you can just quickly explain what those 3 words mean to you.
Well, I might preface the 3 words by maybe just laying out a bit of a philosophy that we have with Gravity Road as well. And this is an idea I got from Carl Jung. I'm a big fan of Carl Jung, and he actually theorized that we're dreaming all the time. It's just that when we're awake, our conscious mind kind of drowns out the dream, right? It's like how the stars are always shining, but when the sun's up, you can't see the stars, but the stars are always there. And so So I really like that. It's like once you get into that infinite dream space, that's where a lot of true creativity lies. And so I think the first word I would choose is dream. I don't know about the other two words, though. It's probably something like dream, love, and trust, perhaps.
Nice. I like that philosophy. I actually have never heard that from Carl Jung. He's, like Maynard James Keenan from Tool is massively influenced. The album Anima is influenced by Carl Jung. Yep. 46 and 2, for example, is a direct reference from the stuff that he talks about.
Yeah, well, that explores the shadow archetype, right?
Yeah. So
that's in the lyrics, isn't it? My shadow, yeah.
That's
such a good song, Jeepers. That gives me the chills whenever I listen to it.
And if you haven't read his biography, it's not an autobiography, but if you haven't read his biography, I recommend it, highly recommend it.
Oh, dude, I've not read it, but I'd love to read it.
Yeah, do it, man. It makes a lot of sense. It doesn't talk a lot about Tool's music, but it talks about his philosophies and how he's grown up. So, dude.
Yeah, there is a lot of that sort of that Jungian alchemical imagery that they have. I mean, they use the like sacred numerology and stuff, and Danny Carey brings a lot of that influence as well. But I think like Maynard, he says that music should just. I mean, that's why the band is called Tool. Like the music is a tool to explore things, or music is some kind of key to open doors, right? There's something about the band's name that works there.
I love you talked about the dreaming thing, because you and I both know, and all songwriters know, there's this weird thing happens when the music is like,
yes,
it's there already, and all you're doing is tuning yourself into it, and you're bringing it down. Do you know?
Yes, like it's like you're discovering it. Yes. It's already there, and you're discovering it. Yes, exactly. Yes, that's precisely that. It's like the song has grabbed you. You're not writing the song consciously. The song is writing you.
And that's
something like that.
I know this sounds cheesy, but that's why I called the band that I'm in, or the project I started, Channeled. Is because whenever I'm writing songs, it kind of feels like, I get those moments and I'm like, wow, where did that come from? Like, like there's a song I wrote called When You Just Can't Turn the Volume Down, and I remember writing it at school when I was waiting for kids to come in and practice, and then they did, but then they disappeared, and I had, like 2 hours or something left, and I just picked up the guitar and I just played the opening chords, and then I was like, and then I heard everything in my head, and I went straight into the studio, and within about 10 minutes the whole thing was done, and I wrote all the lyrics just instantaneously, and then I read them back, and I actually read some of the lyrics out to a student yesterday, and I said, I think I know what this song is telling me. So to me, that's the beauty of songwriting, and that's why I'm trying to get my kids more and more involved in it,
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Our singer Dave, he says the same thing often. Like he'll say, "Hold on, guys, I'm channeling right now." Yeah, he uses that word. He says, "I'm channeling something," and he'll kind of go off into a corner and look at the wall for a bit, and he'll come out and he'll sort of belt out this melody that he's come up with, or that's found him somehow.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's a big part of being creative, and you can't do that with everyone. That's why I think you need to trust the people that you're with. Your bros in the room.
Yeah.
Exploring something unknown together.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It's my pleasure.
And I look forward to catching up with you in person again, because it's been a long time. I look forward to getting on stage with our band, joining your band to play, because I miss playing. It's been nearly 6 months since I've played.
It's been too long, man.
So long. But anyway, we'll catch you up next time, and I'm going to do this for my students who've been hassling me. I'll do it with my little, character here. I would say, if you can like, subscribe, and hit that little bell notification, that would be awesome. Thank you. So that they don't give me crap anymore. Okay, man. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on board, man. Good. Love it.